Bangers and Cash is a treasure trove of iconic cars, still talked about long after the show airs. Under the Bonnet reveals the full story behind some of our most loved motors. On Restoring Classics, we love a period roadster, but we would adore them even more if they always started when you turned the key. The 90s and noughties provided the perfect answer, a Mazda MX5.
These must be the most value for money little sports car in the world. £2,000, £3,000, £4,000 maximum gets you so much fun. Bulletproof, don't go wrong, fun to drive, really nippy and quick. The only thing you've got to watch out for is body. They do rot surprisingly quickly. They rot down the chassis legs, they rot wheel arches, sill sections, chassis legs are the main three. You just get a good one or you get a bad one. Yeah, so just be sure. So before you start jumping in, just be really sure that she's good structurally, otherwise you'll spend a fortune.
You can't say we haven't been warned.
Lot number 414, the Mazda MX5 Arizona, limited edition Arizona. Good little car. Where are we going to be? £2,000 sold. 2000, 21, 22, 23, 2003 and 4. 2004, £2,400 and sold. At 2004, 5, 2,500. At 2,500 then, 2,500 then going once. 2005 going twice. The last time sold 2,500 warning. Sold to the Bangers and Cash team.
With our bargain soft top in tow, we head off to Mazda Dudes in Darlington. Owners Andy Barras and Mark Thornton, together with 3 staff, have been keeping MX5s on the road for more than 10 years.
The MX5 evolved from, you know, the Japanese wanted to copy the British MGB element of it, really. They got it really right with the Mark 1, they hit the nail on the head. That Mark 1 was hugely popular. Unfortunately, all Mazdas do suffer with rust.
That's a Mark 2 chassis leg. It's double skinned, so the water gets in between. And the only place it can go is out. So it breaks out. That's what happens on all Mark 2s.
Looks like bodywork specialist Andy and mechanic Owen have got their work cut out.
You're going to need that. I am.
The rear quarter has been covered with the panel, but the original rear quarter is rotten under the panel that someone's replaced.
The outer quarter needs to come off. This is normally rotten here, but it seems fairly solid, but we'll find out once it's cleaned back. It's the same.
Like the outer panel one?
Yeah, exactly the same.
So that's been repaired as well?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep, it's the same again. A new quarter fitted over the top of a rusty one. So it all needs cut out and down back to the basics and start again.
And the chassis legs, they're on the way out too.
It's gone on the outside of the chassis leg. There's a hole before and after the anti-roll bar mounting. Yep. Pretty typical.
It's certainly not the worst we've seen. Grand scheme of things, it's alright, it's quite clean for a Mark II.
So, not all bad then, best crack on. Andy has started work on the sills, but rust has spread way into the metal.
Yeah, that's continuing up underneath that panel, so unfortunately it's a full quarter. If I just patch that, it's going to break straight. It's just going to come straight back through. I cannot leave it alone. Never mind. Best get to it then. After removing the outer panel, we can see the rust has crept all the way up to this point here, where my thumb is, and it starts again, it finishes and it starts again there. So we've got what, 4 inches with no rust in that lip. So it would be very foolhardy, I think, to just leave it.
It's good fun, isn't it, restoring a Mazda?
Oh, it's great, I love it, yeah. No, it's normal. It's normal to me. The tub's great. Little repair there on the lip, which is, you know, that's normal sort of stuff. So I'm going to have to cut that out and I'm going to have to fabricate a new section. Ideally, if I had a section of a Mark II wing, I could cut that part off and graft it in there and it's perfect. But I don't have one.
What are you using?
What I do have is one off a Mark I, which, as you can see, is a different shape. What I'm going to have to do is cut that section out, and I'm going to have to work this, slot it, weld it, to try and make it match the Mark II wing as best I can. And then I can cut the section out, and I can weld it into that.
How are we getting on, Andy?
The shape isn't quite right. The shape along that plane isn't quite right, so it needs stretching out a little.
Those cuts in the metal,
Yes.
what's that allowing you to achieve?
Well, that's allowed us to shrink the radius on the wheel arch. So by cutting the slots in it, it allows me to open the radius up and make it match more closely the Mark II. You can't buy that panel, so the only thing to do is make it. It's as simple as that.
Next on the welding list are the front chassis legs. These support suspension components, as well as the whole front end of the vehicle. So any rot here is a serious problem, and often an MOT fail.
We need to pull the front end off. The bumper, radiator, air intake, alternator, anti-roll bar, to give access to Andy so he can get to the chassis legs to get them repaired. We just need to let Andy have enough access to this panel here and on this side as well. So whatever we take off we'll put back on, honest.
It's a lot of work for a car with fewer than 40,000 miles on the clock. Bang with Andy, and there's a few adjustments before final welding.
That is going to end up a seam weld all the way along ground flush, and then it's seam welded around the door closure and spot welded down the sill, along the bottom of the sill, and all the way around the wheel arch as per the factory.
Is that the official rust checking technique?
Yeah. Yours are certainly not the worst I've ever seen, but they are an MOT fail and they're not structurally sound. There's rust there on those spot welds, but the important thing is in between. They're double skinned on the Mark IIs and water gets in between, rots them out. If you look, you can see it's dirty, there's rust in between. So that means I've got to cut the inside edge out as well to replace it. I'm leaving that for now. That comes out at a later date. Once I've got the outer section in, I'll take the inner out. I need these captive nuts here for a reference to make sure that the outer is lined up with the inner. Otherwise, everything could go a little bit awry. So, if we get that, we can offer that in there. And that's not a bad fit.
It's now a case of measuring, cutting and grinding again and again and again, making small adjustments until we have a perfect fit.
So, moment of truth now.
Yeah, let's see if it fits, huh? This is where I'm going to make a mug of myself, isn't it? Okay, that fits. Let's see if the bolts go in. Oh yes, look at that.
So the clamp at the bottom has come off the original leg, hasn't it?
Yeah, so the anti-roll bar mount is the original. Once the chassis leg is in place, fully in place, I will then weld it on completely.
After tack welding in place, there's a final check before the new chassis leg is fully seam welded.
So we've got 12.2 centimetres between that point there and the front of the anti-roll bar bracket. So we need to have the same on that side. And we have 12.2 centimetres. Exactly right. Bang on.
Now, we've just got to do it all again on the other side. Away from the grinding and welding,
Perfect little car for the B roads.
Mazda enthusiast and restoration novice Mark Mancher reminds us why our MX5 is worth all the stress. He's out enjoying his Mark III that he rebuilt himself.
I bought this car from auction. It was crash damaged. Part 5 of the rebuild is finally done. We have taken the MX5 out for a drive, and honestly, this car has blown my mind.
Mark filmed the project for his YouTube channel. And it wasn't always an easy ride.
This is my first time I have ever rebuilt a car. So I took on the challenge and working with the car. There are some bits that are fairly straightforward, and there's also the bits that I found rather, I would say, frustrating, because it had a front end crash. Passenger airbag was blown, the driver's side airbag was blown. You have to replace the whole dash, and that was very, very difficult. It cost me 1,400 in auction. I had a budget of 1,500 to rebuild the car, and I think I might have just gone over a little bit with that. I've done stuff to the car that if I was just going to sell it for profit, I probably wouldn't even have bothered doing. But because it's my first rebuild, I'm probably going to keep this car for a while. This car arrived not running, and yeah, just getting to this stage now where we're actually driving it around the country roads. It's what makes this car special to me.
After spending a lot of time, effort and not to mention money sorting out our rusty sills and panels, it seemed wise to apply some corrosion protection. Hopefully, the new owner won't need to go through our pain.
Andy, how come we're taking an exhaust off?
Because if we don't, we're going to cover it in under seal, and that's not necessarily ideal. Plus, it kind of obscures some of the chassis and the subframe. So if we don't take it off, we can't access everything.
We're stripping off all the old underseal, primer, rust, whatever we find under there. The corrosion up here is setting in, but we'll kill that. You can see here where it's scraping it away. Just pulls anything off the steel surface, but doesn't take any steel away. You're not grinding it away, which would take a layer of the steel off, so you're just taking off a surface that we want rid of. It's not the nicest job. The rust encapsulator eats into the rust, neutralises it, and then it adheres to the steel, and then we put a waterproof rubberised coating over the top, and then that prevents any water and salt ingress, prolongs the life of the car. This is the Buzzweld, the rubberised undersealer that we're going to use. It goes over the top of the rust encapsulator and forms a nice barrier. It's looking good, looking good. It's quite jazzy at the minute because it's wet, but it'll dry back to like a matte finish when it comes back from paint. All the cavities, I'll get wax injected into them, so we're doing as much as we possibly can to stop any corrosion now and in the future.
MX5 is now in the paint shop. Neil Sowells will bring her back to her former glory.
A lot of the issue was colour fade and rust, which has been done on the rear quarters. That's been had new panels fitted, so we need to fill all that and prime everything up. Bits of rust on the sill that we need to address. A lot of it is just the colour fade and matching the paintwork.
Is it easy to match?
It's quite hard to match. Basically, we paint the whole thing, so there's no colour difference from panel to panel.
This job is all about the preparation. So it's out with the sanding discs and the filler to blend in the new panels.
There's different types of filler you can get. This is a deep fill, but you can get like a finer stuff that fills in all the little tiny little pinholes. Just mixing with the hardener. This is the prep before you even think about painting. This needs to be done. And we try and get it as smooth as you possibly can the first time. Just saves a little less sanding afterwards if you can get the shape somewhere near. We wait for that to dry, probably about half an hour or so, then we sand it back off, get it as smooth as we can, and then we probably might have to put another coat in, maybe of the finer stuff, just to fill in all the little tiny little pinholes. Yeah, it's coming on good. We use the block just to shape it, basically. It's a lot better to control than the sander. Just a flat sanding block with a 80 grit sandpaper on, and you can control it. It's bendy, so it curves round the shapes of the panel. The first fill, the deep fill, is for when you're filling over wells or biggish dents. And the finer fill is to fill in all the tiny little pinholes. Because if you were just to prime over the deeper fill, you might be left with the deeper holes and cracks in the filler itself. So this just fills all them in. Makes it look like a new panel. It's look amazing.
Painting is a 3-stage process with no less than 6 base coats, 10 top coats and 2 coats of lacquer to achieve the pearlescent blaze yellow. Now back at auction, our Mazda is shiny and rust-free.
2002 Mazda MX5 Arizona, limited edition as we know, super bits of kit. I've got lots and lots of bids on my books. 6,000.
Oh, we're 50% of what we spent on it.
6,500, 6,750 with me, 7,000 with me, 7,000 here with me, 7,500, 7,500, 8,000 pound, 8,000 pound. Gonna submit it then? Are you sure you're all done then? Third and last time, Mr. Brunton, 8,000 pound.
Well done, Mr. Brunton.
8,000 and sold, thank you.
I think you should be really happy with that. Yeah, no, I think that's a good outcome. So it just goes to show, doesn't it? You know, a nice one does do its money. I suppose they're also, of course, making their way up to a certain extent. They're not quite as desirable as the Mark 1s, but they're certainly heading up that way money-wise. So, no, I think you should be over the moon at 8,000. That's really good.